Has feminism gone too far? Feminism was kind of a war on men. I remember my gran said he would just come home and leave his wages on the table. She ran the machine that was the household. Do we want equality or do we want parity? And I think there's a distinction between the two. Welcome to my channel, people. I'm Double Six. I'm here to help men become more deadly and more dangerous. Today we're going to talk about feminism and is feminism making men independent? So stay tuned, watch what I've got to say. Feminism, is it creating independent men? This is the question that I've got to ask. I'll probably have to do this video in two sections because I don't want to make these 25-minute videos. I want to try and keep them to like 7 to 12 minutes. So I'm going to try and do this in two sections, but I have to ask the question today, 2022, is feminism creating independent men? Now that's a bit of a reverse flip because most of the time you hear about independent women, that women want their independence, women want to be independent, but you don't really hear the term independent men. But I have to ask myself, like going through my life, has feminism created independent men? So first of all, you have to look at, for those of you in the cheap seats, the definition of feminism. The definition of feminism is the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of the equality of sexes. Now, based on that definition, I'm a feminist. Didn't say I'm feminine, so watch yourself. But I'm a feminist because I believe that women should have rights, and feminism mostly is about the right of women to have a choice. I think I understand that. So I think, yes, women should have a choice. They should have the right to make choices in their own life. And I think feminism, if I done my homework and got my general knowledge correct, feminism started from women's suffrage, I think, suffragettes, the women's suffrage, where women were seeking the right to vote in elections, just like, the black civil rights movement, where black people were seeking rights to vote in like America and stuff. So I think that was in the beginning of the 19th century where women weren't allowed to vote. So there was a suffrage movement and women were basically protesting, campaigning, and I think that was in about the early 1900s where they had the suffragette movement. So that's just a little background about feminism. So women have championed their rights to vote with the feminist movement. And I think when you look at like early days TV, I used to watch like black and white TV at home with my grandparents and stuff, and you see like women, they start to change the way they dress. In the late 80s, they were like having these like mad curly hairs, and Whitney Houston and all these people were like just busting out the pack and being independent. I can only really talk to you about black feminism and how I think it's created independent men because I'm not really an expert on all the cultures, but I have a lot of my own experience, which is what I like to come in here and talk about. So it's mainly about black women and how I think the feminist movement has changed black women to impact on black men to create an independent man. So as I say, feminism, I have to look at feminism versus men's rights as well. Like women have gained a hell of a lot of rights later than men, but they've definitely caught up. Like now in 2022, like women are championed to be on like heads of boardrooms. There's a lot of affirmative action about like directors of companies and trying to get more women on directors of companies. There's women builders, women plumbers. Like feminism has got women what they want. You're equal now. Like men and women are equal. You got it. Feminism has won. They've got what they want. Like women are equal to men. There is no doubt about it. In society, in my opinion, women are equal to men. But in your quest for equality, there's been a reverse creation in society as well, and that is the independent man. So feminism in the early days was kind of a war. It was a war on men to give women their rights, to give women their voting rights, to give women their right to have a choice. And I support that point of view. But now when women and men are equal in society, they've created independent men. Now, when I say independent men, I'm going to give you a little bit more explanation. So yes, men have always been independent per se in terms of survival, provision, work, looking after their family. We've always been independent in that way, and I think that's where women have definitely caught up, which we can all agree. We don't even need to do a video on that. But now that women have got equality, you've got equality, right? So now women say, well, boy, I don't want to clean the house. I'm working too. Like, we're equal partners. We should both clean the house. And I don't want to cook dinner today. Like, we're equal. We're both earning money. Sometimes women can even earn more than the man. So she's like, I ain't coming home after a long day's work and cooking dinner. I ain't coming home after a long day's work and cleaning. Like, why should I have to do all of that? We're equal. Like, women have got equality and you're equal now. And I get that. But has feminism gone too far? You have to ask that question. Is equality with men parity? Has feminism gone too far? Do we want equality or do we want parity? And I think there's a distinction between the two. I think you've got to look at equality versus parity with men with feminism. So is equality parity? And I think this is where independent men have been created, where women have chosen to go past equality and get parity with men in a relationship, parity with men in the home, parity with men in the marriage. I think that equality is one thing, which feminism has been a war against men, and women have won, and justifiably so. And I agree that women should have won the war against men with feminism. But now women have sought to go past equality and get parity with men. And that is where you've created independent men. And independent men is people like me. I'll give you the explanation. When I say independent, it means you've created a man that now doesn't have to be dependent on a woman. So we're independent in our life, but now we're not dependent on a woman. So my grandfather would have been dependent on his wife, which was my grandmother, to manage the household, pay the bills. I remember my grand said he would just come home and leave his wages on the table. She would balance the checkbook. She would pay the mortgage. She would pay the bills. I remember her saying that about him, that he would just work, make the money, and she would deal with the household. She ran the household. She ran the machine that was the household and the 4 children that they had at the time. So there wasn't parity in that regard, but there was a interdependence on women. So women depended on men to provide, provision, and protect, and men depended on women to run the household, run the family, nurture the children, raise the children. Now that women have got equality with feminism and parity with men, the lines are very blurred now, and men are just like, boy, like, you know, what are we getting out of this? What are we getting out of feminism, equality, and parity? Especially, as I say, I can only really talk about black women to ask, has feminism now gone too far? Has modern feminism, I would say, so you've got feminism that was like the 1900s with the suffragettes and the war against men and women pursuing voting rights and their right to have a choice. I get all of that, but has modern feminism post, I would say, 1990s, late 80s, 1990s, you know, Destiny's Child, all the women independent, throw your hands up at me. You know, I remember that song, yeah, and I remember all the girls screaming for that song in the club. But has modern feminism gone too far? I want you to tell me in the comments section if you feel that modern feminism has gone too far, and I'm going to explore some more talking points on this on the next video. So stay tuned to part 2 of Has Feminism Really Gone Too Far? So has it created independent men? Stay tuned to part 2.